Alright, so I just want to make a quick video going over my initial impressions on Uzuri Switchblade. So let's just jump right into it. Once per turn attack reaction, banish a card from your hand face down. Turn the card banished this way face up if it's a attack action card with cost 2 or less. Put target attacking card with stealth from the active chain link on the bottom of its owner's deck. Then put the banished card onto the active chain link as an attacking card. So basically, you banish a card from your hand face down. This is a cost, so it gives your opponent a chance to respond right here with a defense reaction or an instant, and then you swap out the attacking card with the card that you banished. It's kind of like ninjutsu almost if you play Magic. Not quite the same, but similar idea. If you're like kind of pulling a fast one on them of what's actually attacking. So the idea here is that you want to play a stealth card and then switch it with a better attack in your hand, ideally tricking your opponent in some way, where you're doing this in reactions. So if they wanted to block or block more, they no longer have the opportunity to unless they have a defense reaction. So, for instance, you could play, a lot of our stealth cards so far look kind of like this, where it's like a 0 for 3 with stealth, and then it has some sort of effect. In the case of this, defense reactions can't be played to this chain link. And then in the case of a lot of the other ones, it'll have like an on-hit effect, where you give them one of the tokens or something else. And then you want to swap this with a much better card. So, for instance, you could play this, go to blocks, your opponent says, yeah, whatever, no blocks, or maybe block with one card because it's only 3. And then you swap it out with like a Command and Conquer or something. And now it's too late for them to block with anything else. So you get 3 damage, you get the card in Arsenal. You kind of juice your opponent a little bit on that and get extra value out of the card. But outside of doing something like that, where you're putting something on the chain that is going to have an on-hit effect, where typically your opponent would just try to block to stop the hit effect from happening, it's about as good as just casting the card normally. Because let's say in the case of, a Command and Conquer, well, you could have just pitched a blue or a yellow and played the Command and Conquer. We're still spending as many cards doing this by bottoming a 0 for 3 stealth card to play the 2-cost card. We're still spending 2 cards to do that because we lose the stealth card. It goes to the bottom of the deck. The difference is that the information and kind of tricking your opponent of you're doing this sneakily, stealthily, haha flavor, and you get your opponent and you trick your opponent and you force them to take this on-hit effect, and hopefully it's disruptive. There's not that many things that we can do that is just like raw number value. There's like a few cards that sometimes are 2 for 7s that we could play, but generally I would say I'm looking for a hit effect instead of a just like 1 more point of value. Though there could be a world where we still do that. One of the cards that's like particularly good to do this with is their specialization. 2 for 6, so Command and Conquer stats. Also has a great on-hit. It's basically a Thoughtseize style effect, but what it does is if you've played or activated an attack reaction, this chain link, hey, look at that. Wow, incredible attack reaction. We did it. We figured out the card. Shakedown has, when this hits a hero, choose red, yellow, or blue. They reveal their hand, and you banish a card of the chosen color. Honestly, don't like that it has that clause of choose a color. I think that it just made the card a little unnecessarily clunky. It's like probably fine. It just feels like an unnecessary balancing part on the card of like, I don't think this card would have been overpowered if you could have just chosen a card. Like, we already kind of have that in Surgical Extraction, another great card to do this with. But whatever, that's just like a small gripe with the card. It's like incredibly powerful. And I think one of the things that she's going to really excel at is going to be the mind games of that, where anytime you play one of these stealth cards, your opponent has to ask the question, is there something else coming where I get punished for not blocking more, but there's not a lot, like, am I supposed to put 6 in front of this? And then my opponent just doesn't do that and they do something else. So I think there's a lot of interesting counterplay with that. I think that she's really weak potentially to defense reactions, though, outside of Command and Conquer or other Command and Conquer style effects that, like, say you can't play defense reactions. It's going to be difficult for her to get value off of this effect, because if you play one of these and your opponent blocks for 3, and then you activate her hero ability, putting in a better card, and your opponent just says, all right, I accept, play a defense reaction, then it wasn't that great. And then that also means that we can't crack our boots to get go again if we needed to. Or worst case scenario, we do crack our boots and then our opponent plays the defense reaction, because we do need to do that before they get a chance to do defense reactions if they just let your hero ability resolve. Attacking player gets first reaction. So you can kind of get really juiced there by defense reactions. Could also potentially get juiced by instants in that scenario, even if we have a Command and Conquer on the chain. If they just play an Oasis Respite or something like that, preventing the damage, though then they had to spend 2 cards to do that, so it's probably not the end of the world, unless they have like a Tunic counter or something. It does seem like she's potentially really weak to defense reactions, unless she has access to lots of effects like this, where defense reactions can't be played to this chain link. So far, we haven't really seen any other ways to utilize Go Again very well with her, and cards like Razor Reflex will be potentially really awkward with this style of effect, where we're putting in a bigger attack, so we can't Razor Reflex that bigger attack. Theoretically, we can put it in a 1-cost card, like Death Touch, for instance. It's a 1-cost, so we could Razor Reflex this, and this does get around its clause of you can't play it from hand, since we're banishing it and then playing it, and then it does have a relevant on hit. Like, even if we just go for the Blood Pox, if they can't pay for it, it turns into above a rate card, so that's like a good card that we could do off of this ability, and then we could Razor Reflex it and do something else with the rest of our cards. But generally, it seems like she's going to struggle with action points, potentially. And then the other thing with that is, okay, well, if we're struggling with action points, we can just utilize her boots, because we can recur them. But so far, we haven't seen anything in the spoilers that interacts with silver or makes silver, so then we'd have to be playing contract cards. If we're not like deep on contract, we just kind of have like a splash of contract because we're more focusing on stealth and 2-cost cards to put in. It seems like it might be pretty hard to recur our boots often, unless we get some more silver cards. I could see a world where she doesn't really get to recur her boots. Maybe she gets to do it once a game, and then, you know, that's like still probably better than Snapdragon Scalers or something like that. Like getting to do it twice, that's still really good, and you get 2 block value out of that. Way I think that I could see her working around the problem of action points, though, would be to also play a lot of attack reaction cards. Assassin does have quite a few of those. If we can't utilize our whole hand action point wise, and our opponent didn't give us a chance to block, it could be the case where we just play attack reactions to buff our attacks on the combat chain, since we don't need an action point to play these cards. And then when they don't work in our hand, or we didn't need them, we can just block with them, because they all still block for 3, which is incredibly powerful. So I think that could be a workaround there. But it's a potential problem that I see. I think the cards that I'm looking for in the spoilers to potentially make her good would be one of a couple effects. Some way to kind of cheat cards onto the combat chain with stealth, kind of like getting a Phoenix Flame with an Inflame, all the Tiger Katsu cards. Like, just getting this pseudo-free card onto the chain, so that way you didn't really pay a cost to activate her ability, since it was a free card. That would let you go above rate whenever you do her ability. So that's something I'm looking for. I'm looking for more powerful cards to put into play with her. More Command and Conquers and things like that, more Surgicals, more cards like her Specialization. Give me more reasons to use her hero ability, where it's better than just if I cast the card normally. Outside of her Specialization and Surgical, a lot of the cards that we're going to be, every card that we're going to be putting into play with her so far would be at generic, and other than the like 1-for-5 contract cards. So we could have just played a different hero and just normally cast these cards. We're not getting that much value out of like flashing them in. And then lastly, I'm still looking for something for here, which is a big problem that I think all 3 of these new heroes are going to have. Do they have a way to beat Oldhim? He's kind of become a gatekeeper of the format, and if you guys listen to my video just uploaded with Dan Rakowski, we kind of go into that, where it's like, all these new things are cool and interesting, and I can't beat Fatigue. I don't know how we fix this really without making drastic changes in the game, but she doesn't do anything so far, to go over the top of what a Guardian could block. And she doesn't have anything recursive to gas back up her deck. Maybe you lean into the contracts and try to fatigue the Oldhim yourself. Maybe that's a line. It could be that you use the reaction phase to pump out evasive damage, so that way you can chip in and put them in a spot where they have to overblock initially, and then you just don't play the reaction. But then that also seems kind of mediocre, and the ultim could just side in more defense reactions. So unless you have a lot of cards that say you can't play defense reactions, it could be hard to utilize that kind of strategy, so we'll have to see there. I'm just not seeing how she can efficiently beat an ultim just blocking with 3 cards and pushing hammer every turn, and then sometimes coming back with a relevant hit. Something that I'm looking at. It could be that she's just good against everything else, potentially. I think that she might still have a problem into Dromai as well. Assassin, as of right now, has had problems into Dromai where it doesn't really have an efficient way to clear dragons or pressure. Though, her being a 2-cost matters deck, maybe you have a lot of poppers, so that can kind of help fix the matchup a bit. Just playing a lot of poppers with nothing else to really back that up isn't necessarily a way to beat Dromai. Dromai can beat ultim, it can beat a deck with less poppers. It needs the aggro in the back to back that up. She does need that as well. And a huge shout out to Fabrary for having this awesome resource for taking a look at all of the spoiler cards. He's been updating it with all the spoilers as they've been coming out, as well as showing like what's going to be coming up for future spoilers and things like that. It's fantastic. Please go check out Fabrary. Not sponsored or anything, it's just a fantastic website. And yeah, that's pretty much it for my initial thoughts on Uzuri. I want to know what you guys think about her. Are there any interesting interactions that you guys have found with her so far? Anything that you guys see as a potential play pattern that could beat Oldhim? Anything that you're hoping that she gets in the upcoming spoilers? I'd love to hear your thoughts down below. And as always, thank you for watching.